There's a certain kind of pride that comes with owning land, not a house on a cul-de-sac, not some cookie-cutter lot where you can practically shake hands with your neighbor through your window. I'm talking about real land. Acres of rolling soil, stretching far enough that you need a good pair of boots and a sturdy truck just to check your fence line. That's the kind of land my family left me. And that's the kind of land I plan to protect until the day I died. My name's Jake, and my family's farm sits just outside the boundaries of a neighborhood that wasn't even here when my grandfather bought the first 200 acres. Back then, it was all cattle fields, quiet mornings, and nothing but dirt roads. But times change. Little by little, developers moved in, building homes for people who wanted rural charm without the work that comes with it. Pretty soon, that neighborhood organized into a homeowners association, HOA with an appetite for control. I never joined the HOA. My land isn't part of their jurisdiction, not legally anyway. But that never stopped them from acting like I was one of their subjects. Over the years, they tried everything, sending letters about my unsightly barns, complaining that my tractor was an eyesore, and even demanding I trim my ancient oak trees to match their aesthetic. I ignored it all. My land was mine. My farm didn't answer to them. What I didn't realize, not yet anyway, was how far they were willing to go, and how badly they'd underestimate the one thing they should have feared most, a landowner who knows the law better than they do. It started with small things, emails I never signed up for, inviting me to voluntary HOA meetings where they discussed their vision for the future of the community. Their future, not mine. I wasn't part of their HO, never paid their dues, and didn't owe them a second of my time. But they didn't care. To them, my farm was a loose end, a patch of land that didn't fit their polished image of luxury rural living. Then came the real kicker, a letter with bold print across the top. HOA Long-Term Development Initiative, Land Integration Proposal. They were proposing to annex a portion of my farm into the HOA's shared amenity space. Their reasoning? They wanted to build a recreational area that would enhance property values for the neighborhood. According to their study, my open fields would make an ideal location for a community retreat center, complete with picnic grounds, a small event hall, and a boutique hotel for weekend visitors. I laughed when I read it, until I realized they were serious. The HOA had convinced themselves that because my farm bordered their neighborhood, they could redefine my land as adjacent common ground. In their minds, I wasn't a landowner with independent rights. I was just an uncooperative neighbor standing in the way of their suburban empire. And while they were sending me these ridiculous letters, I was out of state, handling some personal family business. I thought ignoring them would make them go away. I was wrong. When I came back, that's when I saw the hotel. And that's when the real fight began. I pulled onto my gravel driveway, expecting the usual, the weathered barn, the rusted old mailbox, and my field stretching into the horizon. Instead, I saw something that made my jaw hit the floor. A 3-story building stood right where my hayfield used to be. Freshly poured concrete, shiny glass windows, and a parking lot already striped and painted. There were even signs, future site of Fairview Retreat and Lodge. The HO hadn't just sent me letters, they'd acted. They built a whole damn hotel on my land while I was gone. For a moment, I honestly thought I was hallucinating. How could anyone, even a power-hungry HOA, think they could get away with this? No permits, no contracts, no sales agreement. Just bulldozers, concrete trucks, and a whole lot of nerve. I stormed up to the front door where a smug-looking woman in a pastel blazer stood, clipboard in hand. Karen herself, in the flesh. "Oh, Jake, you're back," she chirped like we were old friends. "We left you a few voicemails, but since you never replied, we assumed you were in agreement." Agreement? I nearly laughed. They thought silence was consent. That just because I didn't reply to their fantasy plans, they could build whatever they wanted on land that had been in my family for generations. What they didn't know, what Karen and her crew never bothered to check, was that I had a legal trap waiting for them all along. Karen and her clipboard brigade had no idea they were standing on a legal minefield, and I couldn't wait to watch them trigger every last one. See, my family's land wasn't just ordinary farmland. Decades ago, my grandfather, who had seen his fair share of shady land deals, had filed a perpetual conservation easement across the entire property. It wasn't just protected farmland. It was legally immune to forced annexation, development, or zoning changes without express consent from the deed holder. In other words, me. Even better. The land had a reverter clause, a little-known legal gem that automatically voided any unauthorized development, immediately transferring all improvements, aka anything built on the land, into my ownership. In plain English, the hotel they built, it was legally mine the second they broke ground. So while Karen thought she was standing in her brand new community lodge, the truth was she was trespassing in my building. I didn't tell her that right away, of course, letting her think she was still in control. That was too much fun to ruin so soon. I walked right past Karen, straight into the lobby like I owned the place, because legally I did. The floors still smelled like fresh varnish, and boxes of furniture sat stacked against the walls. HOA board members bustled around, giving themselves tours, bragging about their latest community investment. Karen trotted after me, her heels clacking against the floor. "Excuse me," she said, voice dripping with condescension. "This is HOA property now, and you're not authorized to just barge in like this." I turned slowly, letting the silence hang. I wanted them all to feel the weight of what was coming. "Karen," I said, barely holding back my grin, "I got some news for you. This isn't HOA property. This is my land, my building, and as of right now, you're all trespassing." Laughter erupted from the group, nervous at first, then louder. One board member waved me off. "Nice try," he said. "This land was annexed by unanimous HOA vote while you were gone. We followed all proper procedures." That's when I pulled out the folder, a thick stack of documents wrapped in a leather case my grandfather left me. "See, you can vote all you want," I said, laying the papers on the brand new welcome desk. "But this land is under a perpetual conservation easement. That means no annexation, no zoning changes, no development, unless I personally sign off." And I didn't. Karen's face turned the color of spoiled milk. "And the best part?" I continued. "Because you broke ground without permission, everything you built here, the foundation, the walls, the roof, it's legally mine. So congratulations on funding my brand new hotel." The room fell dead silent. Karen opened and closed her mouth like a fish gasping for air, trying to find some loophole or excuse. But there was none. Karen's hand shook as she snatched the documents off the desk, her eyes darting across the legal jargon like she could somehow will it all to disappear. This can't be right," she stammered. "We had a vote. The community approved this project." One of her fellow board members, a wiry man with thick glasses, leaned over to glance at the papers. His face fell faster than a collapsed deck chair. "He's right," the man muttered. "This is ironclad." But Karen wasn't ready to back down. "Oh, bullies never do. Not at first." "Well, we'll just sue to invalidate the easement," she huffed. "You can't expect one old document to stand up against the will of the entire HOA." I smiled, almost pitying her. "Almost. Good luck with that," I said. "See, this isn't just some old document. It's registered with the State Land Commission, backed by environmental preservation laws, and reinforced by multiple court rulings. Every attempt to challenge it in the past has been laughed out of court." Karen's face twitched, the cracks in her confidence spreading like spiderwebs. But then, true to form, she tried one last power move. "Fine," she snapped. "We'll just fine you for trespassing on HOA property until this gets sorted out." I burst out laughing. "Karen, this isn't HOA property. It never was. You can't fine me for trespassing on my own land. But if you and your pals don't clear out in the next hour, you're all going to be facing criminal trespass charges." The room erupted into chaos. Board members whispering, some backing toward the door, others demanding an emergency meeting. Karen stood there, visibly trembling, realizing for the first time that she wasn't in control anymore. I leaned back against the welcome desk, arms crossed, watching the chaos unfold like it was free entertainment. Truth was, I'd been planning this counterstrike for months, ever since my lawyer first uncovered the illegal land grab. See, while Karen and her minions were busy pouring HOA funds into this illegal hotel, I was quietly documenting every step they took, from the unauthorized construction permits to the shady backroom vote. Every crooked paper trail led straight back to them. I reached into my folder and pulled out the cease and desist order, stamped and signed by the county court. "This," I said, waving it in the air, "is your official notice to stop all construction immediately. Any further work on this site will result in fines of up to $50,000 per day. And since you used HOA funds for all this, guess who's getting the bill? Every homeowner in this neighborhood." The board members turned on Karen like sharks smelling blood. "You said this was all legal. one of them shouted. You told us the land was already annexed, another yelled. Karen tried to defend herself, but her voice cracked under the weight of the truth. I was told it was clear, she stammered. I didn't know. No, I cut her off. You knew. Because my lawyer sent 3 certified letters warning you months ago, before a single brick was laid. You ignored all of them. I slid another folder across the desk, the one containing a full lawsuit already prepared, listing every board member who voted for the hotel, plus Karen personally, as defendants in a multi-million-dollar civil suit for illegal land use, destruction of private property, and fraudulent annexation. Karen's face drained of color. She wasn't just losing power, she was staring down financial ruin. Karen's mouth was still hanging open when I pulled out my phone. You've got about 10 minutes before the sheriff arrives, I said casually. I figured it was only fair to invite some real authority to witness this little HOA meltdown. Karen's eyes bulged. You called the sheriff? Oh, not just the sheriff, I grinned. I also notified the county zoning commission, the state environmental agency, and the local news. They're all very interested in an HOA building a commercial hotel on private farmland without a single legal permit. I could almost hear her heartbeat pounding in the silence. By the time the first patrol car rolled up, Karen was sweating through her blazer. The sheriff stepped inside, an old friend of mine, of course, and gave me a firm handshake. Jake, good to see you, he said loud enough for the whole room to hear. Heard you've got quite a mess here. Oh, just a minor case of trespassing, illegal construction, and conspiracy to defraud homeowners, I said with a shrug. Nothing we can't clean up. Karen's hands were trembling as the sheriff asked for permits, licenses, and approvals. She had none. Every question the sheriff asked dug her hole deeper until it wasn't a hole anymore. It was a grave. The sheriff stepped outside, surveyed the half-built hotel standing awkwardly right in the middle of my field, and shook his head. This thing's got to come down, he said. Every beam, every brick. It's all evidence now. Karen gasped. Evidence? Yep, I said. See, you didn't just build on land you didn't own. You also ignored environmental protections tied to this property. This whole stretch of land falls under agricultural preservation laws. Building anything larger than a shed here without special permits is a felony. The sheriff radioed in a request for a full site shutdown, and within the hour, county inspectors and environmental officers were crawling all over the property like ants. They measured, photographed, and documented every violation. Homeowners who had been duped into supporting the project started showing up, demanding answers. This is where our dues went, one elderly man shouted. I thought this was for a new playground, not a damn hotel. Karen was shrinking by the second, cornered by her own lies. With evidence piling up and the news crews broadcasting live from my farm, the homeowners held an emergency meeting right there in the field. One by one, they stepped forward, each angrier than the last. You raised our dues for this. You said it was a community center, not a commercial hotel. We trusted you. Karen's power base collapsed in minutes. Her usual sneering authority was gone, replaced by desperation and panic. This wasn't my fault, she screeched. I was misled, but no one was buying it. They demanded her immediate resignation. Some even called for criminal charges. With Karen dethroned and the hotel shut down, the homeowners turned to me. You own the land, Jake. What do you want to do? I smiled. Simple. You leave my land alone, and I'll help you clean up this mess. You want a real community center. Fine. But it'll be on HOA land, not mine. And you'll follow every law and permit required. The homeowners cheered. Finally, someone with common sense was in charge. Over the next 2 weeks, the illegal hotel was demolished piece by piece, with HOA funds paying for every cent of removal. Karen? She vanished, resigned in disgrace, moved out, and left her house up for sale with a motivated seller sign. With Karen gone, the two voted for new leadership, and guess who they asked to step in as advisory chair? That's right, me. I didn't want the job permanently. Running my farm was enough work, but I made sure the new board had full transparency policies, no secret meetings, and a strict ban on any future land grabs. Today, my farm's back to what it was meant to be, peaceful, productive, and mine. And every time I see my no trespassing sign, I remember the day Karen tried to bulldoze her way into my land, and how she ended up bulldozing herself instead. Oh, and that legal trap, I said. Turns out, The original developer who wrote the easement into the deed was my great-uncle. He dealt with crooked HOAs before and left me a legal firewall so strong, even the slimiest Karen couldn't break through. Some legacies are worth preserving.